And we're live once again. Not that we weren't live the rest of the week, but you know. Anyway, good to see everybody here. Let's start off with the hellos. And who got the cookie tonight? Believe it or not, Hot Dog Pilot Andy got the cookie. Congrats, Andy. I hope you enjoyed that great big greatest cookie ever. And I'm glad you're here. And let's see who Gerald Stewart got the half cookie. Gerald, glad to see you here. Java 117. Hey, long time no see. You get crumbs, unfortunately, but hey, something, right? Good to see you here. Tom Grassy, good to see you. John Nippenberg. Yeah, rats, I know. That's the way it goes. Let's see, I gotta be able to scroll down here. Floyd Robbins, good to see you, Floyd. Let's see who else we got here. Pennsylvania Railroad. I have a question. Now, James Galton, who's also here, but I'll get to him in a minute, seems to believe that Pennsylvania Railroad is Thomas More. Thomas, is that true? Did you change your damn name again? I'm telling you what. I don't know what the hell. Anyway, good to see you here. Let's see who else we got. We got Hanfield Road layout in the loft. Lee, how's it going? Good to see you. And who else? Ray Bertelson. Hey, Ray. Good to see you. Long time no hear, huh? Let's see who else. Sean's Pennywise and Miser Railroad. Sean, how's it going? Good to see you here. And there's Dundas Junction Model Railroad. James, good to see you. You had the donut, huh? Okay, that's cool. And Joe Rader, good to Black Rock Central. Joe, good to see you. And let's see, is that everybody now? Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. So, got a little bit of work done this week. Not much, but a little. And Crooked River and Eastern Railroad. Hey, Dave, how's it going? Good to see you here. Well, you know what I'm going to start off with? My oil tankers. And I've been competing with Dave Thurber, Crooked River. This is my tanker right here. And I got to make a bunch of these. It took a few attempts to get it down right. I don't have railings on this yet, but I'm working on a railing setup for it eventually. And the one I did before that was a hair bit smaller. And that's this one here. So we'll see. And of course, I've got the decals on them already. Hey, Curly Express. Dwight, good to see you here. And Chuck Shriver. Good to see you, Chuck. And Dave Nish. How you doing, Dave? Good to see you. You guys are just popping right in. So yeah, I've been working on that. It's been rough because I've had a lot of problems with the printer. And you remember, guys, I told you I had to replace the screen last week, the LCD screen. Well, here's the old screen right here. And the only way I can show this to you is with a light behind it. You see that? See that circle there? That's the dead spot. And unfortunately this is ruined. So it'll go in the trash. This was only 40 bucks and it was extremely easy to put in. It literally took me about 15 minutes. And I watched a YouTube video on how to do it, and actually the video wasn't quite correct. They had me taken off the back panel for whatever reason. I didn't need to do that. I just had to remove the tape on the top, pop this up, undo the clip in here, and then slide the new one in, push the clip down, set it back in there. They had new tape to put around it to hold it down, and the done deal. It's a shame that this is no good anymore, but in the trash it goes. And that's the way it goes. So, and like I said, once again, if you have a failed print, make absolutely sure you clean out the vat. Because if there's anything left in the vat that's already been cured, that's what caused that. There's the pressure from the build plate coming down on it, that extra thickness that shouldn't be there yet, put pressure on the LCD screen, therefore screwing it up. So don't make the same mistake I did. So I got that straightened out, and I found out I'm still printing with it, but I'm nervous because the FEP screen or print, whatever you want to call it, glass, in the bottom of the vat is getting wore out. And I thought I had an extra one. I didn't, so I ordered 2 extras today. They won't be until next week. So I think I'm probably just going to do one more print and that's it. It is what it is, right? Dwight says it's storming here, lights are flickering, and I lost internet already once. Well, that sucks. At least for a change, it's not doing that here. I should probably knock wood. I thought for sure we'd have some bad weather because it always seems to hit right around 5 o'clock. So, you know. And let's see, and Dave asks, Jim, should I be cleaning my plate with anything special? I feel like my prints have been a little harder to scrape off the plate. I wash them off. If you're using the water wash, you can wash it off in water. If you're using the other, you have to wash it off in alcohol. But make sure there's no nicks in it. You know, sometimes when you're scraping the part off, you could accidentally nick it, and it just doesn't take much of a nick. It'll leave a little tiny one. Will make that part adhere twice as hard. If that's the case, take some really fine sandpaper and sand it smooth. But just that one little area. Don't like do the whole, or I guess you do the whole thing, but do it on a flat surface. But mostly you want to make sure your vat's clean at all times, because otherwise you'll be in the same boat that I'm in. And that's not a good boat to be in. And Chuck says, where are you, Chuck? Doing great, but here it's almost 100. Hell, it's 100 here every day. I think it was 103 yesterday. I didn't check today. It might have been right around 100 today, because it was 97 at 7 o'clock this morning. You know, the real feel, that's what I go by. I don't go by the actual, you know, oh, it's only 80 degrees, but it feels like 97. If it feels like 97, it's probably 97. And the way it goes, I already had to replace that screen for the printer after getting all the parts from my Anycubic and rebuild my printer. It's been working good. So you know what we're up against then. So definitely, like I said, make sure that vat's always clean. If the print doesn't fail, you shouldn't have a problem. But a failed print could leave a material down in the bottom of the vat, which could cause problems pretty quickly. Yeah, I do the same thing, Dave. I clean mine with water every time. And I wipe it down and then put it back in the machine and do the next print or whatever. Hey, Rick Strains, how you doing? Good to see you here. So, I think when you got 3 chats that you can look at here, it's easier to look at the one up on the screen on the OBS, but the one I have to click on to bring it up on the live chat has to be the one down on the monitor. It's confusing, but and they're not synchronized for some reason. So if you see me looking down this way, that's what I'm doing. I'm looking at the chat on my 13-inch monitor. That's the one I have to click on if I want to bring it up on the screen. Let's see what else we got there. All right, so another thing we're doing, Ray, you're here, so you'll be happy to see this. Look, it's a Trump truck. Got the Trump label in the back. Got the one on both sides. And this one's basically ready to go. Now when I mail these to you, they'll be complete like this, but you could just pop the bottom right out. And I'm going to send you some people. You could paint those people up, put them in the seat, and just press this back in there, and you're ready to rock and roll. So I've got 3 completed so far and 5 left to do. Should have them done sometime tomorrow. And if anybody else wants one, let me know. I'll be more than happy to print them for you. Let's see what else we got going here. Oh, thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. So, yeah, I printed up. I said I printed a bunch of decals up, and I printed extra ones for the storage tanks. These were actually a little bit bigger than they probably should have been, but I didn't want to waste decal paper, so I figured, you could get away with it, you know. They should have been about half the size, but hey, Messy Modeler, what's going on? Good to see you. How much for the garbage truck? I'm gonna do them special today. $6 each plus shipping. And the more you get, the shipping's the same. So shipping's depending where you're at in the country. Could be anywhere from $6 to $12. But yeah, because like Ray Burleson, he ordered 8 of them from me. So, you know, he gets, and like I said, I charge him the same shipping whether he gets 1 or he buys 8. That's a good deal. Well, thanks, Sean. I appreciate that. Messy Modeler, you know what? I still haven't touched any of my model cars yet. I gotta quit fucking around and get cracking on them. I got the one in the house. It's a NASCAR model. It's kind of complicated, but I need to get that. I'm about like maybe a third of the way through it. And I just haven't touched it in almost 2 months. And I need to get back into it and get it finished. And once I get that one done, I'm probably going to start, well, maybe I'll finish the Le Mans. This one right here. If I can get to it. This is a custom model that I printed. It's a 73 Le Mans with a 77 nose on it and the extra axles. I actually had this car for real many years ago. I showed pictures of it. I don't know if you guys seen it or not. You probably have. But I got to finish the interior on this, get it painted up, get it installed, and then start putting things together. I got the motors in place already, the exhaust is in, the drive shaft, and it's pretty close to being finished. And I've got all the trim parts, you know, the grill assembly, the headlights, the taillights. And I'm going to have to buy one of those machines to make the windshields. And I don't know when I'll get around to doing that, but at some point I will. Thanks, Lee, appreciate it. Hey, Chazco, Chuck, what's going on, man? Good to see you here. Let's see. Joe says Ray has lots of trash in his layout. You should see my layout. Yeah, let's see. Is this camera working? Yeah, it is actually. I've cleaned up a lot, but there's still a bunch of stuff everywhere. I keep saying I'm going to get my trains running. I just got to clean the track, but I just haven't had time. But at some point I will get to it. And I did get a lot accomplished on the second level. But I've got to get it powered up already. And I was looking at sheds again for outside because I'm going to take a metal shed and I'll have to build the floor outside. And then put the shed on the floor and bolt it to my building here. And I'll have an outdoor door or entryway for the helix in there, and then I'll have to build the helix and get that accomplished. And then at that point I'll be able to go from top to bottom level. And I don't know if I want to do that first or get the bigger shed for behind me. So I can move my printers and some of the other stuff back there to open up some room in here. So it's just, and you know, the problem with it is when you look at something on Amazon and you bookmark it. Like I had a few sheds that I bookmarked, and I went back to look at them again. Well, two of them have been discontinued, of course, right? So I had to find one to replace it with. I don't have the money right now. I will soon, you know, maybe in maybe 3, 4, 5 months. But that's the problem. If you don't buy something when you see it, it may not be there when you want it again. I had the same thing happen with the have tankless water heaters in the house, and we talked about this before, that I had to clean them. I didn't know they needed to be cleaned, and you just basically use a sump pump and a bucket, and you hook it to the line, and you throw some vinegar in there, and you run it through for a half an hour, and it cleans it up and solves a lot of problems. Hey, Skokie River Valley, John, how's it going? Good to see you here. So I saw one, and I should have bought it that day. It was a hell of a deal. It was like 60% off. I bookmarked it. I went back 2 days later to order it, and it was no longer on sale. So I go, son of a bitch, I should have bought it when I did. You know? And this is one of the problems you run into, especially with Amazon. So, but you know, if you don't have the money, you don't have the money. What are you going to do? Let's see here. And Dave says Chuck Baker had something similar to that setup, Jim. I mean, with an outside shed, you mean? I mean, it's the cheapest and smartest way to do it. Because originally I was just going to build an addition onto this, but yeah, I'm getting too old for that shit, and it would have been way more expensive than I originally wanted to spend. So the cheap way out was buy a metal shed. They're very inexpensive. They come with roofs and everything you need. I just assemble it, screw it to the floor. Build the floor is easy, you know. I use 2x4 for the framework, and joist connectors, whatever you call them, and boom, it'll be a piece of cake, you know. Like I said, then I can screw it right to the shed, so it'll be secure. It won't go anywhere. And if I'm really worried about it, I can always put straps on it too. But I don't think it's going to be an issue. I mean, my chicken coop survived 2 hurricanes. And I think it's because of the location in the yard. Behind me and back there, there's so many trees that it blocks the winds. Where you saw most of the harder winds out front, where there wasn't much trees there or brush. So I'm not too worried about any of that, so we'll see. It was outside his training room like you're talking about. It had a garage door. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, as I said, it's a smart way to do it. And I mean, I could go crazy. I saw Amazon, it wasn't really that expensive. It was $500. It was 11 by 9 foot shed, which is pretty fucking big. The thing is, I don't need anything that big. That's the problem. You know, I can get by. The one I'm looking at is it's 8 by 6, 6 by 8 rather, for behind me, and then a 4 by 6 for where the helix is going to go. Oh, that's good to hear, James. Where'd you go over here? Oh, right down here. James is getting the ablation. Good. He'll be happy. It's painless, and well, you guys got free medical up there anyway, but you'll get off the drugs, and that'll be the big thing. So glad to hear that you're getting it fixed up. What happened to Chuck? You know, I haven't heard from him either. A lot of guys, they just like got off the radar. You know, they just quit doing live streams, or videos, and I don't know if they got burnt out on it, or maybe they got out of the trade, they got out of the hobby. Who the hell knows? You know, you never know anymore. I mean, things happen, and you know, life happens, I guess you can say. But oh, wait a minute, how'd that get there? Did I put that one down? All right, that one down. All right, now we're ready to go. Sometimes you click on things, it don't do what you want it to do. So anyway, that's the general plan. Like I said, 3 months from now, who knows? I may have to find another shed on Amazon because they might sell out or discontinue the ones that I've already got bookmarked. It's hard telling, But I think a 6x8's fine. I could have went with a 4x8, but a 6x8 will give me room on both sides of the shed. So I could put a bench on that side and a bench on this wall and still have plenty of room to get through. I'll have 2 foot to get in between there if I have 2 foot deep benches on each side. And I want to, maximize the space that I can utilize. Because basically I'm going to have all 4 printers are going to go back there. I'm going to turn the sink around. It's going to be on the other side of the wall. My curing box. Well, I might even go ahead and at some point get a cure box washer combo. Because using the sink is fine, but even with the water wash, it still leaves a residue in the sink. And every few months I have to go in there with alcohol and really scrub the inside of the sink because it looks like shit after a while. So but like I said, that's the general plan, but we'll see how it goes. Let's see what else we got going on here. The place is a mess again. Well, it's always a mess. I really need to do a deep cleaning in here. Debbie came in here last week and actually swept and mopped the floor for me, which was really cool. And it looks so much nicer because, I'll sweep up a little bit. I don't really mop that well, so I don't have the coordination for that shit anymore. But if the floor is clean, the place doesn't look quite as bad. But if the floor is trashed, it makes the whole shed look like hell. Yeah, I saw that one time, but it's probably not a lean-to. And that's another problem I have. Because of the way it needs to be done here. The lean-to is got a sloped roof on one side, that's it. Instead of a regular conventional roof. So this way, if I line it up against the shed, and the peak is at the high end, and it runs off there, first off, it's going to be underneath the overhang on my roof, which is only a couple inches. So I won't have to worry about wet rain getting down in there. It'll run off on the outside. So I figured that was the smartest way to do it, was the lean-to. Because a conventional roof, I'd really have to seal the shit out of everything to keep the rain from getting in between the buildings. And that would mean more money and more aggravation and more materials and all that stuff. So, because I feel I'll have to use fairing strips at the very least, possibly even 2x4s between the metal shed and this shed, because even the lean-to, the roof overhangs a little bit. So depending upon how much it overhangs, I'll have to have something in there to close the gap. And then of course I'll seal it with silicone anyway. But that seems to be the easiest way to do it. But I did see that one for $199. And I'm thinking, damn, that's cheap. Too bad it's not a lean-to. The cheapest lean-to I saw was I think it was $238, somewhere around there. $259. That's the one with the $100 delivery charge. It was $289, but it was free delivery. And that's the one I went. Well, I got a bookmark. Like I said, I don't know if it'll still be there when I want it. because I'm thinking, well, shit, $259 is a good price, but then $100 delivery, so now it's $359. You know, that's ridiculous. But that's third party. That's the problem, and they don't have to adhere to the same procedures as Amazon does. So they can set their own shipping limit. And because I just recently got Prime again, at least temporarily, because I ordered new FEP sheets for the printer, and they're only $16 for two of them. You know, and I had to pay like $7 shipping, and then plus sales tax. Would have been $25. So I took the, you know, here's the introductory, you know, Prime. So I got it for 30 days, and I'll kill it before 30 days is up, and we're good to go. Yeah, they are, Dave. It's all metal sheds. I looked at the plastic ones, or there's got another name for them too, but they're nice because they won't rust. But the problem is they're about twice the money. So I says, you know, I just soon go with the metal. If the metal one lasts 10 years, I'm fine with it. You know, I'll buy another one if I have to. I mean, I had a metal shed back in Naples, a 10 by 10. That was outside, and it actually held up for quite a while. So, we'll see. And Tom says a 6x4 is $128.68. Huh. I can't remember what mine were, and I don't dare get out of this because for some reason if I get out of OBS or even do an overlay over OBS, it freezes my my chat overlay. So, because like I said, I got them bookmarked, but I can't get to them right now. But the prices aren't bad at all, not really. But like I said, I just don't have the extra money right now. One of the things I want to get first of the month, I'm going to order, is another APC power backup for the modem in the house, because while this computer is protected, so is my printer, and it'll hold them on for a bit. If there's even a split-second power out, the modem drops off and I have to wait for it to reboot. That could take up to 10 minutes. Hey, Gerald Stewart, what's going on, man? So I'm going to get one for the modem in the house, and I'll be covered. So basically, if a storm hits, as long as Comcast doesn't lose their internet, I'll be uninterrupted and I'll be able to carry on. And you know, Tom from Tom Strange, he did the same thing. So I asked him, I said, do you have backup on your modem? He said, oh yeah, on both the modem and the computer. I said, all right, because I think his are in separate rooms too. So, like I said, the modem's in the house, and my computer's out here in the shed. So, you know, it'd be kind of, I mean, I could run an extension cord, but that'd be kind of crazy. So, I'll just get another APC for in the house. Plus, I got to get a battery backup for the main computer in the house. And as I think I mentioned it last week, it's $101. I have a much bigger APC in the house to run the computer in there and the screen. Now here I would lose the screen, but that takes a minute to come back up. But I wouldn't lose the computer or the internet connection if both are protected. Because the problem is these TVs, they eat a lot of juice, and if you hook them on the same APC as the computer, it cuts your time that stays on about by half. That could be an issue. So, and like I said, I could always, you know, hit the power button on the TV, have it come back on. Now, if the power stays off, well, I'm screwed anyway, because this is only a 450 watt APC, which I'd probably only hold the computer on for maybe 10 or 12 minutes. So if the power didn't come on by then, it wouldn't make a difference. But usually when we lose power here, it's only for a few seconds or a minute at the most. So, We'll see. Uh, what else we got going here? So yeah, but yeah, I definitely want to get a metal shed to save money out, on the cost of the shed, and they're all galvanized nowadays. I mean, in theory, it should last a very, very long time. I wouldn't be surprised if it lasted 10 years or more. And I'll probably repaint it anyway to match the shed, because I got that like barn red out there, and just soon paint the shed the same color so it all blends in. So the extra coat of paint will also protect it a lot longer too. I have a plan. May not be much of one, but I do have a plan. So, like I said, it's all about money. I was hoping I wouldn't have to pay property taxes this year, because our governor's trying like hell to get them negated. But the latest I read is if anything happens, it won't be till 2026. So that's not going to help me any. So once again, I got to quit fucking around and put together the tax money so I can pay the taxes, before it's due. And after that, of course, I'll be once again out in the black again, and I can get some other things accomplished. It's all about time and money. It'd be great if I won a lottery, but I don't play, so it's hard to win when you don't play. But to be honest, I just don't feel like I would ever hit it. And it might bring about its own problems. When I sold my house in Naples, I wound up with $107,000 left over after the sale after I bought this place. I had to spend that money quickly. Had I not done it, they would have actually took away my Social Security for a while, because they don't like you having any extra money. So it kind of sucks, but because Deb goes, "Oh, it's a shame you couldn't have saved that." I said, "Well, the problem is if I didn't spend it, and I spent it on home repairs and other things, things that were kind of a tax write-off. If I hadn't have done that, they would have, like I said, they would have suspended my disability payments. That would have sucked." All right, Lee, have a good one, man. Thanks for popping in. Yeah, I agree with you there, Tom. But and so does DeSantis. He's trying to get it off of everybody. But even if they just did it for 65 and over, at this particular junction, that would be fine. But a lot of the government, and even though mostly Republicans are running the state, the legislature, they're pissing and moaning. "Oh, we can't lose that money. We need that money." No, you don't. Florida has a $15 billion reserve in reserves for whatever they need it for. We're making way more money than we're spending, which is something the government should, try and mimic. But the thing is, I said, most of the property taxes go to the schools. I haven't had a kid in school in 30 years. I think it's been longer than that, actually. I'm not sure. And my oldest daughter is what? She's 43. They all finished school, but they were what? 17, 18 when they quit. When they got out of school. And my youngest, he's 29 now, I believe. Why am I paying for schools? Now we'd still have to pay for like the fire department and the garbage pickup. That's fine. That's $300 a year. They laugh at money like that. I'd nothing. Here you go. Here's your $300 now. I'll catch you again next year. But it's the other 1,000 or more that I gotta pay for the property. The rest of the property tax. That's what fucking hurts. And I'm getting off a lot cheaper than some of you guys. I know some of you guys are paying crazy money in property taxes. It really is. It's bullshit, Now, several states did actually stop property taxes, I think, for 65 and over. I think one state actually did away with them altogether. I don't remember which one it is. That's what I read. If that's any truth to that, and that's a whole other deal there, but, but it's ridiculous. I mean, when you're on a fixed income like myself and like a lot of you guys are, you're on Social Security or disability or pensions or whatever, you can't go out and just make extra money. So what are you supposed to do when shit gets, out of control? And that's what I'm saying. This is bullshit, And here garbage. Well, it's all private, actually. I mean, we have, back in Naples, we had Waste Management, which you probably have up there, because I think they're based out of New York and New Jersey, but mafia run, by the way. We have Waste Connections here in Sebring. They're a fucking clown outfit if there ever was one, I pay more here for trash pickup. I only get once a week pickup for everything. Like in Naples, it was twice a week for regular trash and your recyclable, and they actually did recycle to a degree. And then every week they had bulk grass and stuff. And then every other week they had bulk construction. Here, it's twice a month bulk pickup, twice a month bulk construction materials, once a week regular trash, and once a week recycling, and they don't recycle here. It all goes in the same truck, And I asked the guy once, I says, don't you guys recycle? And he says, yeah, we do. Well, how you doing? He says, well, it separates in the truck. No, it doesn't. Well, you got a fucking leprechaun in there that puts the recyclable in one bin. There's one bin in the truck. It all goes in that bin, They're so full of shit, it ain't funny. But, but like I said, that doesn't bother me too much. And of course, if they couldn't take your house and you refuse to pay it, and they just, well, we're not picking up your trash anymore. All right, well, then you could take your trash down to the dump yourself. It'd be a pain in the ass. And you'd still have to pay a little bit, but, if that's your choice, then so be it. I would just pay the fuckers because it ain't much. Gerald says most houses in Austin pay over $5,000. Yeah, there's places here in Florida the same way or worse. It's crazy. It's just, and the taxes keep going up. People are crying. Like, my taxes were $8,000 last year. They're $14,000 this year. And I'm going, well, maybe you guys need to start storming your city councils and wringing some necks. If you don't do anything, they're just going to keep running with it. They don't care. It ain't their money. They don't give a shit. If you can't come up with it, they take your house. They come out ahead no matter what. Sean says, I'm not sure how property tax works in the U.S., but here, 72% goes to the county, 24% goes to the municipality. The taxes collected from, and the schools get 4%. Ha! I wish schools got 4% here. It's really like 80% goes to the school, and 10% goes to municipality and infrastructure. And some of the other the leftover tax goes to said fire department, garbage pickup, things like that. But it's it's ridiculous. Well, we had one too, Tom, and then all of a sudden there's only one truck coming, and they're picking up both cans. I think what happened was they probably figured, well, we're losing a lot of money by running two trucks, And they had some stupid rules anyway, man, when they were running a recycling truck. They rejected my can once because I didn't have clean pizza boxes in there. They have to be spotless. You can't have any grease on them or pizza residue. And I'm thinking, to wash a fucking box? Fuck you, it's garbage. You don't want it, I'll put it in the regular trash. I don't give a shit, But they wouldn't pick up the can because they had a pizza box in there that had stains in it. From the pizza. It's like, really? What the fuck? Tom Grassi says, I wish my tax was only $5,000. Oh, Jersey's crazy. I mean, Jersey's got one of the highest taxes in the country. That's why, I could never go back there. I couldn't afford to live there. My wages, my money would barely cover the taxes, let alone anything else. So that ain't gonna work. It's a shame because I was looking at my old house up there. Well, not mine, but my dad's old house in Carteret. Beautiful house. He did such a great job on it. They further, you know, updated it, and it's now worth something like 800 and some $1,000. And in '69 when he sold it, I think he only got like 12,000 for it, something like that. Wasn't much. And he rebuilt the whole house. I mean, it was a beautiful house, and I'd love to go back up there and live there, but it's just not possible. So, Jim, our fire departments are volunteer. Yeah, that's nice. They don't. Well, they have volunteers here. Well, they assist the paid guys. I tried to get on the volunteer fire department back in Naples some years back, and they really didn't want us. I mean, they just bullied us and gave us a bunch of shit. And one guy said, "We really don't want you. We don't need you." Well, sure you do. We're not getting paid. We're just helping. We could drag ladders or drag hoses or whatever, hook up water. Obviously, we're not going to go in there and do anything dangerous, but that's your guys' job. They didn't want to do it. You know why? Because if they put out the fire too quick, they lost money. And I didn't know how that all worked until then. And like if they're doing a brush fire, the longer that brush fire burns, the more money they make because they get basically what they call hazard pay. And when they're sitting in the station, playing with themselves, waiting for a fire to happen, they don't get much money. Well, they probably do, but they don't think so. And so when a fire happens, they're quick to get out there, but then they're real slow to put it out because, if they put it out too quick, they don't make that much money on hazard pay. And I swear to God, I watched them sit there and watch shit burn, and it's like, why? And I've got a few stories, I won't get into them, but I've seen enough evidence to where I have no respect for firemen. I really don't, If they did their actual jobs properly, I would have a lot of respect for them. It's a dangerous job, I don't deny it. But, that's what you signed up for. If you want to cry about it, go find a job that's not so dangerous. The bigger your house, the higher your taxes. That's true, Sean, unfortunately. This place here, I said, I'm really getting out of it. My house is almost 3,000 square foot. If you count the garage. Now, sometimes they don't, but still, it's a pretty good sized house, Plus, I got a guest house beside it, a mother-in-law apartment, I guess you can call it. And then my shed here, so, and I'm only paying roughly about $1,300 a year in taxes. Not bad. I'm not really bitching, but, if I can get out of that, well, hell yeah. Let's see. Joe says my house cost $12,000 to build and 58. County says it's worth 225. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? That was like the old house in Naples. I sold it for $3. It got flipped 3 times. The last guy to buy it paid $1.1 million for it. It was built in 1969. It originally cost $13,900. It's insanity, man. It really is, But what are you going to do? Our volunteer firefighters here get the same training as the paid guys. And they should, basically. I mean, And, for many years, most of the fire departments were voluntary anyway. I mean, the county provided the trucks and the equipment and shit, but the guys, basically, a lot of them were volunteers, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I'll tell you, some I think do a better job putting out the fire than the pros do. Or I should say the paid guys. So I said, there was a fire next town over in Lake Placid. It was last year. It was a big brush fire, and there was a house that got caught in it. There were 4 fucking fire engines out there, literally stationed in front of the house, and they watched it burn to the ground. And I'm going, why aren't you trying to put it out? It's like, well, because they won't make any money that way. And they don't give a shit. You know what? I said, I watched firemen destroy this woman's kitchen once because she had a small fire in the ductwork over the stove. You know, you could have put it out with a fire extinguisher. They literally destroyed the kitchen. Probably did about $30,000 worth of damage. And I had something to say about it because, you know, it's like I'm the one who told her to call the fire department. I didn't have a fire extinguisher, neither did she. If I had a fire extinguisher, I'd have put it out myself and saved her a lot of aggravation. But, you know, it's just, you know, why did you destroy this lady's kitchen? Well, what do you care? She's got insurance. That's not the point. You know? But that's the way they look at it. They don't give a shit. Well, they got insurance. Who the fuck cares? Well, when the rates go up and find out the insurance may not even cover it or all of it, then what? You know? Fucking bullshit. It really is. I was a volley for 20 years, Joe. Volunteer, cool. Like I said, I wanted to volunteer, but they really did not want us, and they made no bones about it. So I just said, you know what, I'm not going to fight with you over it. If you don't want me here, fuck you. You know? And a lot of the other, I don't think anybody actually wound up staying there to volunteer. Because it was just, I think it was like 10 of us that were, you know, there to volunteer and sign up for it. And fuck you, you don't want us, you're going to give us a bunch of shit over it. Fuck you. You know? It's a shame, really. Back several years ago, Joe, the fire service would call on us public works guys to assist. Now we have a good mutual aid program in place. I'm getting too old for grass fires. Yeah, I hear that. As I said, the last brush fire they had that I remember was quite a few years ago. It was by the school in Naples Park. It got started by the kids were out there playing with model rockets, and one of them misfired and, you know, set the thing off. I had a small extinguisher, but it wasn't enough to put out the fire, so we called, and they didn't have cell phones back then. I had to find a payphone, call the fire, and said, look, there's a fire down there by the school. You need to get out there right now, you know. By the time they got out there, it was about, I think the fire might have been maybe a quarter of an acre, you know. By the time they got done, 3 days later, they'd lost over 180 acres, lost a brush truck, a tractor. I mean, they made a complete fucking mess out of it. I'm like, oh, how hard is it to put out a damn brush fire? You know? And I offered to assist there, too. I said, you know, you guys need any help? I'll drag hoses, whatever I can do to help you. No, we got it covered. Go home. I'm fine, fuck you. Let's see. Derek, hey Derek, how you doing? Good to see you here, man. Says, God bless the volunteer fireman. I wouldn't want to go in there. Well, that's true. Like I said, it's a dangerous job. And I would have more respect for them if they actually did their job. But when they sit, you know, back in their trucks and watch something burn to the ground, I kind of got a problem with that, you know. And their attitude is, well, you got insurance, what do you care? You know, well, see, the problem is, I don't have insurance here. My house catches on fire. If I can't put it out, I'm screwed. But by the time the fire department got here, and like I said, they'd probably sit up there and watch it burn. You know, and I'm paying $260 a year for that. It's all bullshit. But, you know, it is what it is, so what are you going to do? Yeah, that's the problem. I just recently read that the Florida farmers are letting all the crops rot. And the reason they're doing that is because they're pissed off at Trump for imposing tariffs on foreign countries. So rather than selling their crops at a little bit less money and still, selling them and they're viable, they just said, yeah, fuck it, we'll let them rot and we'll just plow them over. And I lost respect for farmers a long time ago because they did the same thing back in the 70s. The government told them to destroy their crops and they'll pay them for it, and the farmers did it, which raised the price of food. And I'm going, that's bullshit. As far as I'm concerned, these farmers are fucking traitors. They should all be hung. You just don't do that shit, man. But they did. It is what it is. So it's just the way it is. It's like my wife buys a lot of freeze dried food from this one company. I can't remember the name of it, but they just announced that they're not going to do private sales anymore. Basically, they're going to do government contracts. So basically, the government said, hey, stop selling to the people. We'll buy all your food because we don't want the people to actually have, viable food that'll last 25 years. Not the first time that's happened, by the way, in this country. But it pisses me off. And I'm going, you know what? I wouldn't buy from them after that anyway. The hell's wrong with these companies, They did the same thing with the ammunition. Was it last year or 2 years ago? The government got hold of all the ammunition manufacturers and literally cleaned them out, trying to basically keep us from getting ammo. It didn't work because most of us, already had what we need. But, But the whole point was they were trying to corner the market on ammo and keep the citizens from getting it. Because they got unlimited money. They could spend whatever they wanted. So, we'll buy your whole inventory. No problem. Is the post office on vacation in Florida? I have no idea. Why do you ask? Sounds like a government problem. The government should have given them a subsidy to cover the difference of selling at a lower cost. Oh, that's what I'm saying, Sean. But that's the problem today. And all these companies are going out of business, or going belly up, or filing Chapter 11, Chapter 7, whatever. I mean, it seems to me like they're just plain greed is running things. It's like, well, you know what? We're used to making X amount of dollars a year. We're not going to make a penny less. We'll shut the doors first. And that's a damn stupid way of looking at running a business, And how do you get billions of dollars in the hole anyway? I mean, you're obviously not managing your company or your money correctly. Yeah. There's just something wrong with this whole picture somewhere along the line. But what are you going to do? I mean, we have no control over it. So, Tom, why do you think... I mean, the post office down here is bullshit anyway. Half the time we don't get stuff when we're supposed to. Sometimes we don't get it at all. I have 2 packages been sitting in Orlando, Florida post office for 3 days now. Status shows accepted. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Don't know what to tell you. It's the post office. As a rule, they suck. They suck worse than Comcast or YouTube does. That's just the way it is, But those FEP plates that I bought. I ordered them from Amazon, even though I got the Prime shipping on it, for trial basis. I still won't get them for 7 or 8 days. And they're coming out of Texas, and I'm going, it should only take like 2 days to get it out of Texas. Yes, they are, Sean. A little bit too free, if you ask me. Jim, your suck list may need to be updated. Yeah. Oh, if I list all the places that sucked, now I need a couple of days to post it all. It just is what it is. You know, I am disgusted, but there's nothing else you can do. You know, that's why usually when I order things, like especially eBay, they may have the same product. Several different places will have the same product. I'll find the place that ships the quickest rather than just picking the first low. Even if it costs a few pennies more, I don't care. Because I want to get the product, yesterday, not fucking next month. So. I agree with you, Sean. They should. They don't. Not anymore, anyway. All right, Andy. Thanks for popping in, man. Have a good night and have a good weekend, a safe one, and we'll see you next week. Um, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, it's like the car companies. They're Chevrolet, General Motors is getting ready to raise prices on cars. You can't sell the ones you have now because they're too expensive. But you're going to raise the price. And then they're trying that, we lost $1.1 billion in the last quarter. Well, yeah, because your fucking cars are too expensive. Once you try dropping the price in half, well, you'd be surprised how fast they'll sell. And you'll still make good money. You just won't make great money. So, like I said, what are you going to do? I mean, it's the way business runs, and I never ran my businesses that way. If things slow down, I drop my prices a little bit to keep, the customers coming in or keep the product selling, whatever the case may be. Better to make a little money than no money. But today I'm either going to get this much money or I'm going to get nothing. Well, that's fine by me. If you want nothing, fine, you'll get nothing. But it's stupid. And if you're running a business and you're $1 billion in the hole, in the red, you're doing something wrong. I don't care how big your business is or how much, I don't know what these companies bring in in a quarter or a year, but if you're $1 billion in the hole, you're doing something wrong, plain and simple. Why didn't you stop spending money when you knew things were slowing down? Oh, the economy's going to shit right now. Nobody's buying our product, but let's keep spending money anyway. How dumb is that? The latest terrifying deal with Japan is going to really hurt the North. Yeah, I read that. I agree with you to a point. Hey, Floyd, what's going on? But once again, what happened to competition? If the Japanese could sell a car for, say, $25,000, but we can't sell one for less than $40,000, maybe we need to look at our prices again. Keeping the Japanese cars out of America is not going to fix anything. Because the bottom line is, nobody has $40,000 to spend on a new car. Especially they're all pieces of shit anyway. You heard Toyota's got that. It's now it's $13,000, but originally it was a $10,000 pickup. It'll never come to this country because A, we won't allow it. Because everybody would get rid of their F-150s and their Rams and whatever else other truck they got, would buy this truck for 13 grand. I would buy one in a heartbeat. I'd get rid of my Ranger and I'd buy that fucking thing. I can't even get a decent used Ranger for $13,000. Unless it's like ancient. I got an '03. I bought it 5 years ago, and it's got 241,000 miles on it. But the bottom line is you can't keep jacking the prices up and bending people over and expect them to keep taking it. Eventually they're going to say, enough of this. And I think that's where we're at right now in this country with not just cars, but with everything. People aren't buying anything. Well, why not? Because they're too fucking expensive. A washing machine's $1,000. Used to be able to get them for 200. That's all they're worth. You know. And they keep throwing all this electronic crap in them. They fuck up. They don't last near as long. You know. A $200 General Electric basic washing machine back in the 80s, they're still running. Today, the same machine is $1,000. It's all electronic. If you get 2 years out of it, you're doing good. You probably won't see 3 out of it before it fucks up, and it'll be cheaper to replace it than it is to fix it. Why they put on it? I got a washing machine. I bought it used, and I got a good deal on it, but it was about a $900 machine, and it's got all these sensors in it. You know, why? It's all electronic, all push button, all digital shit, you know. I don't need none of that crap. Put a fucking dial on it. I turn it to wash, hit the start button, and it washes. This fucking thing, I gotta do this and this, and there's like 5 different settings you gotta do. Each time, hit the start button, and hopefully nothing goes wrong. And if one sensor fails, the machine basically stops working. Why? You know. Yeah, I hear you there, Sean. Well, that's like you said. Some of them, yeah, $80,000, $100,000. It's nuts. I remember when you can get a brand new pickup for $6,000. You know, well, it was back in the '70s, but still, for what it is. And you know, they got these pickups now. They're crazy. They got cruise control. They got power windows, power seats, entertainment systems in them. All this computerized crap. It's a fucking truck. You'd be afraid to use it for work because, you know, it's too nice to destroy, right? But if you want to just use it for work and don't care, why would you spend 80 grand on one? Why would you spend 40 grand on one? You know, it's fucking nuts. All right, John, thanks for popping in, man. We'll see you next week. Have a good weekend. Be safe, and, well, you know, have a good night. And Tom goes, and how about the electric bill going up? I bet all the electric cars people will be sorry they made the mistake. Well, a lot of them are selling them now, actually. And don't even fucking talk to me about electric bills. I just got mine. It was $354. Now, granted, I do have a big house, and I have a guest house, and this shed. But, you know, I got rid of the big air conditioner in the main house because it was too expensive. That same bill would have been over $500 if I'd have kept using it. So I got rid of it, and I put 3 mini splits in. We only use 2 at a time anyway. You know, one in our bedroom and one in the living room. It had helped, but, you know, it's still, but they raised the rates again. You can't fucking win. And then they said, well, you know, we can help you lower your bill. I'm thinking, all right, how are you going to do that? Well, we can average your bill. So you have no control of your bill when they do that. They average it over the course of a year. So if you have a traditionally high bill, say $300 a month, they'll knock it down to $250. That's what you'll pay every month for the whole year. Even though like in the winter months, you may only pay $100 normally, but you got to make up for the summer bill. I don't like that shit. I like having control over the bill, so I don't never do that averaging shit. But they're notorious. Hey, Tom's Trading Things. Tom, how's it going? Good to see you here. So yeah, it is. It's the same old shit. If you try and get ahead, they will find a way to prevent you from doing so. It's just the way it is, you know. Oh, we can't have that fucker actually, you know, enjoying life and having a few extra bucks. We got to find a way to take it for him and make sure he suffers. Yeah, Tom, kiss my ass. I know you're on solar. I mean, must be nice. If I had the money, I'd do it too. But the thing is, down here, I mean, I looked into it, and you know, even though they claim that no, they'll give you a free solar, so the government will pay for it. It's all lies. And the way they do it is you pay dearly, and you wind up paying anywhere between $35,000 and $70,000 for it when all's said and done. I can't afford that, you know. I can get a whole lot of electric for 35 grand, you know. So, it is what it is. Yeah, I know. And as I said, delivery charges, fuel charges. Shouldn't that be built into the bill to begin with? I never understood. Like FP&L down in Naples, they do it everywhere, I guess now. But at the time, they started instituting a fuel surcharge. So if gas prices went up, even though they don't use gasoline, they use diesel or propane or whatever, they would jack the price up with the price of gas. And I'm going, wait a minute. You're not even using gas to generate electricity. Why am I paying a fuel charge for it? You know? And of course, when the gas went down, the charge didn't really go that much farther down. It would drop a few pennies, but never where it was prior to the price jump. It's all horseshit, you know. Oh, absolutely, Floyd. Well, that's another problem with electric vehicles, you know. You guys hear about that freighter that sunk out in I think it was the Atlantic or the Pacific somewhere? He had something like 300 electric vehicles on board. Well, one of them caught fire. That's what sunk the ship. And then once the other ones got wet, they all caught fire, and them fucking things will burn underwater, you know. And I'm surprised they even let them ship them like that. I mean, as dangerous as they are, they should ship them without the batteries, you know, and find a different way to get the batteries over here. But I don't know. Yeah, let's see. Sean says the subsidies for solar panels and panels are nowhere. Well, no, they aren't. But they weren't that good anyway, because like I said, I had a few guys come here and said, you know, would you be interested in going solar? I said, well, what kind of a deal you got? Well, you know, we'll do free installation. Won't cost you a penny out of pocket. You know, and I'm thinking, well, yeah, it's going to cost me something. So how are you paying for it? Well, the government's going to subsidize so much of it, but what we do is, I mean, I had to basically, you know, practically twist his arm to get the truth. Down here anyway, they would put a lien on your roof for 30 years, and they would actually tack on the money on your property taxes, so you wound up paying for those panels anyway, plus they owned your roof until the panels were paid off. And of course, if a hurricane hit and tore the roof off or the panels off the roof, they didn't cover that. So you're right back to square one. You're still paying them. You don't have solar anymore. Maybe you don't even have a roof. So I'm thinking, this is not a good deal at all. You know? And I don't want nothing on my roof anyway, to be honest. I would rather have them on the ground. You know. There was a guy in Naples. He did it himself, but he got it looked like a boat trailer. A pretty big one, you know, triaxle. And he built a frame on there and mounted all his panels on that, and they were electric, so they would follow the sun. But he had them on the side of his house. So if weather came or something like that, he could hook up his truck to the thing and, you know, move them somewhere safe, and it wouldn't destroy his roof. And I'm thinking, that's pretty smart, you know. So if I were going to do solar, even on my own, I wouldn't put anything on the roof. Put them on the fucking ground. Oh, yeah, you're right, Tom. And that's a good point, too, you know. Who was the idiot that said they need to itemize our bill? Just give you the total, don't care how to break it down, just not interested. Well, like I said, it's all a scam anyway. Some of it is. I'm sure there's some legitimate people out there, but like I said, the bottom line is I'm not convinced. You got a good setup, but you got the batteries. If it wasn't for the batteries, your solar cells would probably be shit. You know what I mean? You said you can go, what, like almost a week just on battery power? That's pretty cool. But the batteries are what, 15, 20,000 each? Yeah, which is a lot of money, but, and if I had throwaway money, I would do it, you know. But I don't have disposable income, so, you know, it's not happening. If I ever won a lottery, though, oh, you bet your ass I'd go full solar. But it wouldn't be up on the roof. That I just won't do. I'll put them on the ground, but I'd have the batteries on the side of the house and do what you gotta do. Alright, Floyd, have a good one, man. Thanks for popping in, and be safe and have a fun weekend. We'll see you next week. Tom says I can go almost a month on the tube, but that's a long time. They said that's pretty good, you know, but I just don't have the money for that. Ain't gonna happen, you know. And you know, if I were still working and all that, I would probably do it because I'd have the money. And, you know, I could always make more money if I needed to. And I made pretty good money when I was working anyway. I was averaging $7,000 a month, you know, pocket money. And but that doesn't happen anymore. So yeah, not doing. Yeah, that's a good question, Derek. How many pounds do you have, and what did it cost you? I mean, it's nice to have, you know, what'd you say, $1.73 electric bill? I would not act if I had a bill that low. I mean, I like have fucking strokes every time I get the billing. Holy shit, 350, 340, you know. It sucks, but there's not much I can do about it, you know. I hadn't even thought about going solar just to here in the train room. You know, I could put a few panels up on the roof or even on the ground. Get an inverter and a few batteries, and I could probably power everything in here for a couple of days, probably just on battery power, you know, and it wouldn't cost me that much. I mean, about $1,000 investment would probably get me set up in this. I don't have the money to do that right now, but at some point I might, you know, take this right off, take it off the grid. You know, because I mean, the air conditioning unit really sucks power here, and that's a mini split, and it's 110 volts. It's not like a real energy hog, but you got some all LED lights, a computer, a few printers. You know, it wouldn't be hard to do a solar cell. My neighbor, he's got a 4-panel setup, 2,000 watts or 200 watts. I don't remember, but no, 400 watts. Each panel's 100 watts, and 2 batteries, just 12-volt lithiums, an inverter, and a charge controller. And he could run his mini fridge and something else for like 4 days on it. So he did that because of the hurricanes, you know, which, you know, if we lose power here, I just, you know, bring out the generator and use that. But generators ain't cheap either, you know. 7 gallons a day, and that's just during the daylight hours because I don't run it at night. It gets pretty expensive pretty quickly, you know, especially if you're out for a week or two. Let's see here. Tom says, Derek, I have over 30 panels and it did not cost me anything for the installation and nothing for the panels. It was a special deal in Jersey back in 2020. Yeah, so you got a deal, man. You know, I would probably consider a deal like that too, but there's a lot of fly-by-nights down here and a lot of them don't tell you the truth. They just want to make the sale, you know, and like you said, the condition of your roof makes a big. Now I have a metal roof. Like I said, I don't like the idea of drilling into my roof. I can see problems with that down the road. But, you know, if you have a bad roof and they have to take the cells down, most of them in the contract says that you can't remove the cells. They have to come and do it, and they charge you for it. And then you get the new roof, and then they charge you to put them back on. Fuck that. Yeah. So, like I said, it's not good. Joe says, so far my gas electric bill has been around 200. My thermostat is set for 80 degrees. Well, that's not bad. It's not great. I mean, I like 79 myself. But who the fuck's calling me? No, I ain't answering the phone. No, 7:20 in the evening, somebody's calling me. An 800 number? Probably bullshit anyway. Like I said, well, the air conditioner, the mini split in the bedroom, I have that set at 80 every night because it gets cold in there, even at 80 degrees, you know. Now in the living room, I don't have a mini split in there, but I got a portable air conditioner temporarily until I put a mini split in, but I got it set at 74. And it keeps the place right around 77, 78, you know. Let's see. So you've had it for 25 years? 5 years, Derek. Okay. And Tom says, where'd you go? When it snows, they send a crew to clear the panels automatically. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, because they won't work if they're covered with snow. I said, I don't have an issue with it, not really, except that it's very expensive. And, you know, realistically, all new houses should come with them built in. Along with a battery or a couple of batteries and, you know, everything needed to not be on the grid, or at least not much on the grid. And I don't know why they haven't done it. I mean, at the price of houses, they could really afford to integrate that into the house, but they don't, you know, and it's a shame that they don't do that because they really should. But, you know, it's like I'm saying, everything's just crazy expensive. It just is what it is, you know. And it's just going to get worse. It's not going to come down. For a while there, we were seeing gas was, you know, around 298. I think the lowest I saw it was 293 here in Sebring. And now it's back up to 315. And I think yesterday it was at 319, I think. You just can't win, you know. And the thing of the price, a barrel of fuel, a barrel of oil, I think is down like $55 or $60. Well, that's what it was back when gas was $1 a gallon. So what the fuck's going on here? You know, we're paying $3 a gallon for gas, and it's still $60 a barrel. What the fuck? We're getting screwed no matter how you look at it, you know. But what are you gonna do? So yeah, with all these things involved, as I said, it makes it tough. You know, when you want to, hey, GRE 2057, how you doing? Good to see you here. 20 smacks on the like button. It's free, folks. Smack it. There you go. I can't see how many's actually clicked on it because for some reason it doesn't auto refresh here on the laptop, and OBS doesn't show it, neither does my monitor, so I just have to take somebody's word for it that, you know, that they're clicking it. So yeah, if you would though, click the like button. Don't cost you nothing. You take your aggressions out, you know, as long as you don't go crazy with it. So, Russ says, hey, Russ is rocking O&HO trains and stuff. How you doing, Russ? Over $4 a gallon. What are you out in California? No, you're out in Oregon, aren't you? I think. Or Washington. No, it's on the fucking West Coast. I know that. Well, shit, they're talking that California might see $8 a gallon because they shut down 2 of the refineries they had. So I guess they can't refine fuel anymore, which is also ignorant, you know. I don't know what the hell's going on over there. I mean, are those people morons or loons or what the hell's going on? You know, or they think if they get $8 a gallon for gas, everybody's gonna sell their gas cars and get electric ones, so they can pay $1,000 a month for their electric bill. I don't get it. You know, people are stupid. Years ago, when I worked at the golf course, all our mowers ran gasoline. And this company came in and says, "Hey, we'd like you to convert over to LP gas." I said, "Well, I don't know about that." So I did a study because my boss says, "See what they want, see if it's worthwhile or not." So at first it would have been, but the conversion would have cost about $1,200 per piece of equipment. We had something like 80 pieces of equipment. But then, of course, there was a handling issue. Do we really want these illegals? We had all illegals working there, you know. Do we want them handling propane tanks? They'll blow themselves up. But I asked the guy, I says, "Well, it doesn't sound like a bad deal, but, we saw what happened with diesel. Remember when diesel was strictly for trucks? Then somebody got the bright idea, well, let's make cars with diesel engines. What happened with diesel after that? Price shot through the roof. And diesel's never come down since then. I figured the same thing would happen with propane. If we went to propane, we'd be stuck with it for one. We'd have a bunch of money tied up in it. And if you raise the price, we'd have no choice but to pay it. So I said, no, I think we'll just stick with gas. He got all pissed off and stormed off, but, And my boss says, well, how'd it go? I said, well, I asked him a question he didn't want to answer it, so I answered it for him, and he didn't like that answer because it was the truth, and he stormed off, But that was the problem, and this is the same thing with electric. If everybody went out and bought an electric car tomorrow, what do you think would happen to your electric bill when you went to charge your car? If you were paying $300 a month before, you could safely double it to $600 a month. You're not going to save anything. Really, you're paying more for the fucking car to begin with. Then you got to pay to have a charger put in your house. You just can't plug, 110 volt thing in your wall socket. Most of them are 220, 240. You got to have an electrician come and wire it in, because that's being a dedicated circuit. That's going to cost you $1,000 or more. And then you're charging your car all night, every night. What do you think that's going to do to your light bill? First off, the grid couldn't handle it anyway. And you wind up waking up to a dead car because your power went out in the middle of the night. But people don't look at this. They think, oh, I could save money by going electric. No, you're never going to be able to save money. The system is designed to drain you of every dime you get. They're not going to let you get ahead. And we've seen it time and again. Don't fall for it. Sean says, my take on solar panels, the more people have, the less and the cost of hydro will increase. Less revenue for hydro providers to maintain. Yeah, exactly. And that's true too. Same deal, Russ says California is shutting itself down. They sure do seem to be, don't they? That fucking Newsom, man, he's a dumbass. Sean says, maybe I'm wrong. No, I think you're right on the money with that. Because like I said, if you take business from one area and move it to another, the price of that other is going to go up. It's all about supply and demand. When demand grows, so does the price. And of course the thing is, if everybody went electric and say, I didn't and I wouldn't, in theory, the price of gas should go down to practically nothing because there'll be no more demand. That'd be good for me or anybody else that decide to keep the gas car. Let the dumbasses buying the EVs, let them pay out the ass for it. We'll come out ahead in the end. That's the way I see it. I mean, I could be wrong, but Gerald says, remember 17 cents a gallon? Yeah, actually I do. back when gas was 25 cents. Diesel was always less than gasoline. You know, and that's what started the thing. You know, well, diesel's so much cheaper. We could put a diesel engine in your car, and you'll save money on fuel. So yeah, let's do that. That's a great idea. So they started putting diesels in cars. Next thing you know, well, you see where diesel is now. It's more expensive than gasoline. You can't win. You're not allowed to win. They're not going to let you win. That's just the way it is. That people are leaving California. The problem is that they bring their I know. Well, that's like our governor here says, look, you're welcome to come here, but leave your politics back in California. You know, we do things differently here. We're not interested in how you did them over there. And a lot of them won't move here because of it. You know, saying, well, we can't bring California with us. What's the point? Well, you're leaving a shithole. Why do you want to drag a shithole with you? You know, fucking people are dumbasses. Jim, I already have a connector in my solar system to the car to charge an electric car, but I'll never buy an electric car. Well, there you go. Well, yeah, I mean, because you got Tesla batteries, right? So, by extension, you figured it'd be built into the system. But, you know, like you said, why? And it's like Gerald and I started driving at 18.9 cents per gallon. Well, you're a little older than I am. I remember 25 cents. I was just a kid, and I had a moped, and it used to cost me 25 cents to fill it up, and it held 1 gallon. I'd pedal it up to the gas station, fill up the tank for 25 cents, and then drive out, you know. But those days are long gone, man. Hey, remember, you know, gas, I remember gas 70 cents a gallon, I think 60 cents a gallon. Then when it hit $1, people started bitching about it. You know, $1's not bad. But then when it went over $1, I'm all right, something's got to break here, you know. GRE says California is in a commune right now. That's why people are leaving in droves by the busload. It's ridiculous, you know. And yeah, they're so stupid there. They want to do away with gas cars. They don't want any factories. And they all the trucks that now, any trucker that comes into California, I guess they have to be electric, otherwise they're not allowed in the state. So if you're running a diesel semi, you can't go in California. I don't know if that's true or not. That's what I heard. Because they don't want diesels in there. They want all electric. Well, that ain't gonna fucking work. Fucking idiots. Tom says, Jim, I was pissed when it went to 25 cents. Well, I guess you would be. You know, they said you're a little older than I am, so you had more skin in the game than I did. But yeah, I remember the gas crisis of '73 because we were on rationing in Naples. I think I got mine on odd days, based on our house number. So if you had an odd address number, you had odd days. If you had an even number, you went on even days, and then you were only allowed to get $20 worth. You weren't allowed to top off your tank, and there was something else I can't remember what it was, but you know, we stole a lot of gas back in those days. Not from the gas stations, but you know, it was wrong. But you needed gas, you needed gas, you know. It was all and you know, it was all manufactured anyway. Oh, we're running out of gas, you know. Not enough dinosaurs to produce fuel anymore. Bullshit. Alright, Sean, thanks for popping in, man. We'll see you next time. Have a good, happy, safe weekend, and we'll see you next week. Joe says, I remember cigarettes at 19 cents a pack in the military. They all said we would quit if they ever went to 50 cents. I started smoking, they were 45 cents a pack. Then they went to 50, and I'm thinking, okay, I can live with that. But then they went up to 60, and I was starting, like, you know, I think I might have to quit. Then they went to 63. That was an odd number, but they went to 63. And still I didn't quit. And then they went to 75. And I kept saying if they go up any higher, I'm going to quit, and I never did. By the time I did quit, they were what, $3.50 a pack. Now they're like $8 a pack, something like that. I don't know what the hell they are, but that's fucking nuts. And it was all taxes anyway. It didn't cost them any more to manufacture a cigarette then than it does today. But it's all taxes. Because the government decided they would make a good scapegoat for all the ills of the country, you know. Well, cigarettes are poisoning the air. They're making people sick. Everybody's getting cancer. And if they hadn't put all that crap in the cigarettes anyway, they probably wouldn't have got sick from it, would have got cancer. You know, I got lucky. I started when I was 15. I quit at 57, I think. 2-pack a day on average, sometimes more. And they kept saying, well, you know, you're probably going to get this. Yeah, fuck you. First you tell me to quit, and then you say, well, now that you quit, you're probably going to get sick. What the hell I quit for then? Well, it's healthier. Well, you just said I might get this, I might get that. How's it healthier if I get sick? Fucking mind motherfuckers, you know. And I'll be honest with you. And I quit cold turkey because they wanted to give me all these bizarre drugs and shit to help me quit. And I go, I don't need that shit, you know. And I quit for financial reasons, not because I didn't like smoking anymore. But, you know, I couldn't afford it. I mean, I was spending, you know, $20-$30 on a carton of cigarette once a week. That's money out of my pocket that I really didn't have. And I said, you know, I can't do this anymore. It's just a waste of money. So I quit right then and there. I had a half pack of cigarettes on my desk, a lighter in my ashtray, looked at it every day, never touched one. And it took about 6 months for me to really kind of overcome the desire to smoke. Even now, every now and then I get a craving, but I don't. But you know, like I said, I felt better when I smoked than I do now that I don't. Coincidence, psychosomatic, who the hell knows? Tom says, Jim, we even had an odd plate stay, so I had an even number and an odd number plate. Had to change the plates once in a while. That's pretty slick. Yeah, whatever works, right? But like I said, it's all, you know, all this stuff is manufactured, you know. Then they come to find out that we will never, not in the next 5 lifetimes, run out of oil, you know. And remember all the Texas wells, they went dry and they capped them off? Well, they checked them a couple of years ago, they were all full. Either they were lying about them being empty, or they filled themselves up somehow. Maybe oil's a natural occurrence on the earth. We don't really know. It has nothing to do with the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs weren't fucking 5 miles down. They didn't bury their dead. So, how do you explain that? How many fucking dinosaurs were there anyway? You know, we have more oil under America than the entire world does. They found out. But because of our idiot presidents or whatever, not Trump so much, but prior presidents, oh, we can't drill that oil. We got to get it from Saudi Arabia. Why? Why are we paying somebody else for something we have here that we could extract cheaper than they can? Doesn't make sense. But then, what the fuck does? I don't know. It's all craziness. I was looking at a thing the other day. It's called a shit. What the hell was it called? Fume. F-U-M. It's a cigarette, but not a cigarette, and it's not a vape either. It's a plant-based cartridge that you stick in the fake cigarette, and you don't really inhale it, but you taste it. It's supposed to satisfy a cigarette craving. I don't know. It's kind of expensive. That's why I wouldn't do it, but because I didn't believe in vaping as if you're gonna go that far, just fucking smoke a real cigarette. You know. Turns out vapes are bad for you anyway. Way worse than cigarettes were. But, you know. I thought it was interesting, though, because it was something different. But the starter kit was like $90 for the cigarette tube, a few of the cartridges, and a little case that it comes in. I'm thinking, that's a lot of fucking money for nothing, you know. And time goes, Jim, 8, 9, 10, 18.9, 10 gallons is $1.99, 25 cents, 10 gallons is $2.50. Oh yeah, without a doubt. Oh, it does. I remember when I had my Impala, that had a 30-gallon gas tank in it. I was 17 at the time, and I used to fill that tank for about $8. I don't remember the price of gas, but I remember it cost me $8 to fill the tank from empty. 30 gallons. You could probably do the math and figure it out, but 30 gallons today will cost you $90. Actually, more. It'll cost you over $100. That's just fucking unbelievable. Yeah, there you go, GRE. Drill, baby, drill that oil. And they should. And Trump is supposed to. But I don't know what the hell's going on with him. You know, I know that people are saying that he's on Epstein's list. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't want to believe that it is, but if he's on the list and he actually did do those things that Epstein and his other clients did, then yeah, unfortunately, he needs to meet the same fate. But I don't think he doesn't come across that way to me, But now they're all bothered by that. Everything else getting pushed by the wayside. Forget about that for right now. Get that list out there. Whether he's on it or not doesn't matter. Do the right thing, nobody will give a shit. But, I was reading the story today, it was kind of interesting. This didn't happen here, it was in Russia. Because if it would have happened here, it would have went down a lot differently. But the Russian father, his best friend, raped his 6-year-old daughter. Well, he found out about it because he saw pictures. I guess the guy took pictures of it on his cell phone while he was doing it. So Dad found out about it. Well, he was none too happy. He got that motherfucker, drug him out in the woods, made him dig his own grave, and convinced him to kill himself. Well, the guy killed himself, Dad buried him, and unfortunately he got caught. And of course, other people, they say, well, yeah, there's something wrong with that guy. He raped, 6-year-old. He might have raped a few other kids too. So fortunately, there was enough evidence to show that the dad was sort of in the right, but he still had to serve 18 months in jail. And he shouldn't have spent 18 minutes in jail, but he did the right thing. And actually, I guess 3 or 4 towns in the area signed petitions begging the justices to let him out and drop the charge against him because what he did was a good thing. And of course it was. He killed the fucking pedophile. If somebody did it to my kid, well, they wouldn't find the body for one. But I'd do something very similar. That fucker, I'd kill him, but I wouldn't let him kill himself. I'd do it for him. And I'd make sure it was long and painful. And I don't know why the fuck they don't let people do this shit when they need to. Gerald said my Suburban had a 40-gallon gas tank. My bass boat had a 31-gallon gas tank. Well, shit, I had a international travel. Had 3 tanks in it. The main tank was 20, and the 2 saddle tanks were 15 each. So 30, 40, or 50 gallons. And of course, back when I filled it up, it cost me about, I don't remember gas. I think gas was almost $2 a gallon at that time. And I filled up all 3 tanks, and it wound up cost me close to $100. But, and eventually I got rid of the saddle tanks and just kept the main tank in the back because that valve that switches them over was always giving me problems. I said, you know what? Not worth the aggravation. Tom Gray says, who can believe a list? My question is, who wrote the list in the first place? Well, supposedly Epstein did. Now they're backtracking on. They're saying that Epstein did all this stuff himself, that he was raping all these kids and nobody else was involved. I don't believe that for a fucking minute. They already know that royal did, what was it, Prince Philip or Prince Andrew, I don't remember who, I think it was Andrew. He still denies it, but they kind of caught him red-handed, you know, with his dick in the cookie jar, so. You know, Bill Clinton was in on it, a few actors were in on it. I believe there were probably hundreds, if not thousands, of people that partook. And now Trump tried to order that list be revealed, and Congress denied it. They said, "No, we're not gonna release it." Well, you know why? Because they're all on it. You know, it's ridiculous. I want to know who the fuck's on. I mean, I have a list. I don't know if it's accurate or not, but I acquired it a couple of years back from another company. And when you got membership, they gave you a list of this shit. But and it was supposedly all the people that were involved with Epstein. And it pretty much was everybody, almost everybody in Hollywood, everybody in our government, everybody in the English government, including the royals. People you wouldn't even think that were in on it, but and even a lot of Israelis. So I don't know. Well, of course, Republicans are on the list, and like I said, maybe Trump's on it too. I can't believe that he is. Trump's a lot of things. I just don't see him as a pedophile. But and besides the way he treated Epstein. You know, he threw Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago before he became president because Epstein was trying to solicit a young girl or something in his Mar-a-Lago, and he threw him out, and that was the end of that. So the only thing to know for sure is that Trump did ride on the airplane, the Lolita Express, to go from New Jersey to New York. He never went to the island. It's just he hopped a ride because his plane was on maintenance or something. But, you know, that's all they got. And I don't think, trust me, if Trump was in on that and the Democrats knew about it, they would have fucking went after him a long time ago, even if it took out half their party, because they don't care. They will throw everybody under the bus to take Trump down. And that's why I don't believe he's really on it, you know. All right, Derek, have a good one, man. Thanks for popping in. Have a safe weekend, have fun, and we'll see you next week. That's a good one, Ray. Clinton didn't inhale and Monica didn't swallow. Well, she didn't swallow, apparently, because it was all over her dress. All right, James, have a good one, man. Thanks for popping in. We'll see you next week. I'll try and attend your show again. Appreciate those reminders, though. That comes in handy because I do forget. You know, I didn't have a problem with Clinton getting the blowjob. I had a problem with him denying it. You know, he wouldn't be the first president to get it blown or have a mistress or anything. They all did it, you know. But the fact that he stood there and lied to the American people and denied it until he couldn't anymore, that's what pissed me off. Just own up to it. I don't care. You know, if you're running the country properly, that's all I care about. I don't give a shit whether you got blown or not. You know, more power to you. You know, Maybe next time they could find a better looking woman. I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, the women he got, they were kind of, you know, not the prettiest girls around. But, and from what I understand is the Secret Service was pissed off because they would usually get the women for him and they would vet them, you know. Well, he went and got Monica himself along with a couple others, and they wound up turning on him. Well, what do you expect, you know? At least the Secret Service did it. They probably told you, you know what? This didn't happen because if it did, you may find yourself in a shallow grave. So, you know, be happy you got money for it, now get out of here. All right, Gerald, have a good one, man. Thanks for popping in, and we'll see you next week. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I have a problem with liars anyway. You know, I don't care what you do. Just don't lie to me, you know. I may not like it. I'll respect you for being honest, you know. And that's pretty much where I stand on most things. Oh, that's true, Tom. I mean, could you imagine sleeping with that every night? Well, she's a closet lesbian anyway, from what I'm told. She never did look good. Even when she was younger, she was kind of on the ugly side. You know, I don't know what the hell he's on, or maybe she gave a good blowjob. I don't know. I mean, you know, hey, he was nowhere. He was actually not even as bad as Kennedy was. Kennedy was a serious fucking skirt chaser. Everybody knew it, but nobody cared. You know, and it really didn't become a problem until the whole Marilyn Monroe thing. And I think they offed her because she probably knew things she wasn't supposed to. I don't believe she killed herself. I think, you know, they made sure they made it look like a suicide, but it wasn't. And once again, when you put yourself in that position, you got to figure if things go south, you're screwed, you know. Unfortunately, most women don't think ahead like that, but wasn't for that, she'd probably still be alive today. I don't know. Well, she'd be old though, wouldn't she? Oh, I don't know. I guess that's all craziness. But it is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. Oh, you're gonna, yeah, that's right. James is gonna do the turbo train on Monday. I want to see that anyway. Well, anyway, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up at 8 o'clock. I got another 10 minutes. I kind of run out of shit to talk about anyway, so. Jim, most women can't think ahead is because they are thinking ahead. Yeah, that's probably true, Tom. There was an article, I think it was on YouTube the other day. They said, I guess a bunch of women got together, they finally admitted, well, older women anyway, all they want is sex. They don't care about anything else. They just want to get fucked. And they're going, well, at least they're honest about it, you know. Not that I ever had any doubt anyway. But, you know. Who the hell knows? It's all craziness. Oh yeah, before I forget, there are still some seats available on Sparky's dinner train. Last I heard there were 10 available. So if you want to go on the dinner train when to go up to the meet and greet, you gotta actually get up. You gotta give them a yell and get that set up soon. But it's going to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, August 22nd, 23rd, and 24th this year. And it ought to be a lot of fun for those guys who can make it. So give them a call or text them or send them an email and get your tickets for that dinner train while they're still available. Joe says, well, we did talk about trains for 1 or 2 minutes. Yeah, we did. You know, like I said, I actually, made a couple of things. My oil tankers. I got the smaller one and I got the bigger one here. So, I got one in the printer right now. Hell, it takes 12 hours to print one. But, I got to come up with a railing for the top, possibly. So, yeah, like I said, it's always something. But yeah, if all we did was talk about trains, you'd probably get bored with me anyway. I mean, I got to thinking, and I'm not bragging or anything, but I do seem to have a pretty popular channel. You guys enjoy coming here. You come here every week. Like I said, even though we don't generally talk about trains that much, I must be doing something right. Jim, on that all there. Well, it's the file. I found the file on Thingiverse. I think it was Thingiverse. And I had to modify it because the one they had was huge and it wouldn't even fit on my, I think it was almost 180 millimeters in diameter. So I had to shrink it down to, I think, 140, I think, 140 millimeters in diameter. I had to make a top for it, a cap, because it didn't have it attached. So I got a cap and molded it in there, on Tinkercad. Because otherwise, I can't make curved stairs. Just can't do it. But depending upon what you got, there are other tanks. They have a long, tall, skinny one that has a circular steps on it too. And I think they're separate on that one. Here they're integrated into the tanker. So you can't take them off. Well, maybe you could somehow, but it wouldn't be easy. But yeah, that's how that happened. I either got it on Thingiverse or I did a general search for it. I don't remember. I got the file. If you want it, I'll send it to you. Joe says we hope for a rant every week. Well, I don't really call it one, but yeah, I guess it kind of is a rant, isn't it? Yeah, there you go. Joe's entire show is a rant. It kind of is in a way, Hey, Raymond Anthony, 127, you just got here. Well, you got 5 minutes before I call it a night. That's all right, though. Better late than never. Yeah, well, but I think that's what makes the show interesting. We can talk about all kinds of different shit, What's I mean, I love trains. I know all you guys do too, but there's more to life than just trains. And so why not talk about some of the other shit? Why not? At some point we're gonna really talk more about trains when I'm maybe neck deep in stuff over here. But for the moment, yeah, this will just have to do. Raymond says, just got here. The live stream is probably going to end shortly, but at least I got here. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up at 8 o'clock. So you got 5 minutes. Like you said, better late than never, right? So, all right, Tom, have a good one, man. Thanks for stopping in. I'll see you on Monday, right? Yeah, Monday. I know. Your Friday show. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Have a good night, Tom. We'll see you later. I tell you, you guys ever watch Tom's show? He's working on he does a lot of wood kits, He's working on a coaling tower, I guess it is. He's been working on it for like 3 weeks now, man. That fucking thing is hard as shit to build. Intricate as hell. And I don't know how he does it. I figured about 15 minutes in, I ought to throw the whole shit in the trash, and I had enough of that crap. But Tom, he's doing really great, man. And you should see this thing. It's fucking nice. you know. And Tom's a pro when it comes to building wood kits. Honestly, I don't think I could do it. Mostly because I don't have the patience. And the fat fingers don't help any either, but it's incredible though. You should watch his show every now and then. He's on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Monday and Friday he's on Rumble only. Wednesday he's on both Rumble and YouTube. I know a lot of you guys don't like Rumble. I'm not real impressed with Rumble, not for live streams. I said I do my Wise Guy videos on Rumble because, well, I can't do them on, ScrewTube, but they're still having issues with it. But he did come up with a go-to. So I've got to contact Rumble too, because when I watched Tom 2 or 3 times during the course of his live stream, it'll lock up and I have to hit the refresh button. Real pain in the ass, So, but that's my only bitch about, with Rumble right now. I'm sure they'll get it straightened out eventually. So Tom says, Jim been printing a tunnel top using PETG. It worked well. Then ordered gray PLA. Amazon on sale. 2 rolls for $22. That's a good price. But the PLA did not create the supports on the bottom, and the print failed. Well, that sucks. Can you print separate supports and glue them in? That's what I would do probably. And he goes, then split the model in half, now working with PLA. There you go. The PETG doesn't work well on my Vipers. I know it works good on your, I can't remember what it's called now, your other printer. But the Viper, it just, I've got a half a roll here. And it just, and I'm doing the right temperature, right bed temperature, everything else, but it just doesn't print well. I don't know, of course my machine's a little older too, where your Bamboo Labs machine, can't remember what it's called now, but it's a brand new machine. It's probably better designed for the PETG than these Vipers are. One of my Vipers is down right now. The old one. I got to get a new, is it a Y? The Y belt that brings the bed back and forth. I'm having a hard time finding one for the machine. I'm not in a big hurry to fix it because I still got the other one, but I got to replace that, and I think that's really all that's wrong with it, because it was out of time or something, because when you started it wouldn't bring the bed back. It would start the bed in the very front, and the print would fail because it would try printing on the very back of the build plate. It was all fucked up now. What the hell is going on with that? Tom says, the A1, I tried adding a support on Tinkercad, but when it printed it was too hard to remove it from the model. That's why I split the model in half. Well, that makes sense. I'd say anything bad about the PETG. That's some tough shit, man. It's not easy to break. The model was 226.76 millimeters long. It's about like that. Yep. Like I said, I printed for this one, the cap that I made, I printed the cap on the Viper because it was actually quicker and easier on the Viper than it would have been in a resin printer. But I printed the body in the resin printer. So, but then I said, well shit, why don't I just integrate it in there? So I did it with the smaller one, and I brought the size up more, and the one that's in there now will print the cap on automatically with the body. And the stairs, so we'll see. Alright guys, well listen, it's 8 o'clock, so I'm going to wrap it up. It's actually 8:01. I'm going to put the outro on, and oh shit, man, thanks for popping in, and we'll see y'all next week. Don't forget, if you want to see Tom, he's on tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. But he's on Rumble, so you have to go to Rumble. And I think you can use Tom's Trains and Things or Tom Kovichak. Either one will work, I believe. Alright, guys, that's it. We'll see you next week. Have a good one. Be safe. And remember to play with your trains.